the Immigrant Investor Program. But first, let me give you a little introduction about myself and the law firm. I'm a partner at Margaret, Wong and Associates. Ms. Wong has been in practice for more than 30 years, practicing immigration law. We have offices in Cleveland, New York, Atlanta, Chicago, and we just opened an office in Nashville, Tennessee. And you might have heard that Ms. Wong just won a very big case recently. President Obama's uncle was just granted his green card this past week, and Ms. Wong handled that case personally in Boston. So I'm going to go through each of the EB5 options, talk about some other options for the green card, maybe temporary work visas, and then at the end, if you have any questions, then I can handle questions also. Okay? Oh, and I've been practicing with Ms. Wong, practicing law for almost 6 years. I practice mostly employment-based law, so work visas, employment-based green cards, but I also have handled family-based cases, citizenship, and even some removal and deportation defense. So any questions you have, I can answer. All right, so just to give a little introduction, how do you apply for a green card? Who's eligible? There are usually 4 types of pathways. First is family sponsored. A family member sponsors another family member. Maybe you marry somebody. A brother or sister files for you. A son or daughter files for you. A parent files for you. Family sponsored. There has to be a family relationship. Okay. The second is employer sponsored. You have an employer who's offering you a job, or you're already working for an employer, and they're willing to sponsor you for the green card. And they're willing to go through that process for you. So that's the second. The third is self-sponsored. What if you don't have an employer who's willing to sponsor you? What if you don't have a family member who is a U.S. citizen or a green card holder? There's some types of cases where you can sponsor yourself. One is EB1. That's where you are a person of extraordinary ability in the arts, science, education, business, or sports. There's the national interest waiver, which you prove that you personally will benefit the United States if you're allowed to stay. And then there's the investor program, the EB5 program. You don't need a job offer because you are making the investment. And we're going to talk about that later today. And the last is asylum or cancellation of removal. Asylum is if you are afraid to go back to your home country, afraid because you will be targeted, you'll be threatened, you'll be harmed if you go back to China. But you have to, it's not very easy because you have to show that you will be personally targeted. And cancellation of removal is if you are in immigration court, you've been in the United States for 10 years, you don't have any legal status, you're a person of good moral character, and you have a relative who is a U.S. citizen or green card holder, parent, spouse, or child, then sometimes you're allowed to apply for a green card that way if you can show that without you in the United States, your relative would have extreme hardship. Life would be very difficult for your relative if you were not here. Okay? So those are the four ways to apply for the green card. Now let's go through the basics for EB5. 10,000 spots every year. Now, right now, there's no quota because you have less than 10,000 people applying every year, but more and more people have been applying throughout recently, last year, this year, and there's talk about maybe they will exceed 10,000, so that means that people have to start getting in line. I'll start talking about it a little bit later. But 10,000 spots every year across the whole world. 2 categories of EB5 cases. First, direct investment in a private business. You invest money in a private business in the United States, and you can apply for a green card that way. The second is through a regional center. The government has pre-approved more than 400 businesses in the United States. They can be private or public. So sometimes they're run by a state, sometimes there's just a private business, like a fund or a company. And the Immigration Service has pre-approved those to handle economic investment. Now, I'll talk about those two differences later on, but the biggest difference is that when you directly invest in a private business, you are responsible for proving that your investment leads to 10 US jobs created. And you have to work in a managerial position for the company after you get the green card. A regional center, it's just an investment for a green card. You have no responsibility. You have no say in where the investment goes, how it's spent. You don't manage the business. You just invest the money, and then you get the green card. Now, more than 90% of EB5 cases are through regional centers. People are interested in the green card. They don't necessarily need to manage the business. Okay. Direct investment. Let's talk about the details. The minimum investment can either be 500,000 US dollars or up to 1 million US dollars. It depends on where the company is located. A targeted employment area, TEA. If the company is in a TEA, then the minimum investment is 500,000 US dollars. A TEA is a poor area or a rural area, a countryside, outside of a big city. So either there's a high unemployment rate, 150% unemployment compared to the US average, or it's outside a big city with 20,000 or fewer people. Now, the state economic office in Columbus can help you decide whether an area is TEA. Sometimes it's complicated. You have to look through the census charts, the population size, statistics. So either you have an economist look it up for you. A state wants to actually encourage investment in the state, so the state economic office will actually help you also. And they will help you provide documentation to prove what is a TEA. Anywhere else, if it's not a TEA, the minimum investment is $1 million. Okay. Now, you can't just invest in any company. The company has to be what's called a new commercial enterprise. The EB5 program was started in 1990. So that means that the company had been created and started business after November 29th of 1990. Now, that doesn't mean that all businesses created before 1990 are not eligible. You have to show that it's a new enterprise. So that means if there's a change in the business after 1990, a substantial change. Maybe before it was a hotel, but now you are converting it into an amusement park resort, then that's a substantial change. If it was a hotel before 1990, and it's still a hotel after 1990, then that doesn't count. Okay? A substantial change in the enterprise. It can also be a substantial change if you actually change the way the business is run. If it wasn't doing very well before, but you added more assets to the business, more than 40%, that changes. If you hired more than 40% of the workers who are already there, that changes it. So a substantial change in the business after 1990. Okay? The source of the investment funds. You can't just use any money to make this investment. You have to prove to the government where this money is coming from and that it is legal money. The government is concerned about money laundering, criminal enterprises, giving money, investing in the United States, and turning it into clean money. You have to prove that it's not coming from a legal source, a source that's not legal. So whether you earned the money from salary, from investment, you earned the money and it's yours, you prove where the money comes from, you show your tax returns. Or maybe you sold your house or sold property. You show you purchased it, you show the sale agreement, and that's your money. Maybe it's a gift. Maybe your parents gave it to you. Maybe your brother or sister gave it to you. Maybe your spouse gave it to you. You show that where the spouse, where the family member got the money, and you have them give it to you as a gift. That's where the money comes from. So you have to show the source of the funds. And now you have to create 10 full-time U.S. jobs. The EB5 program is designed to promote growth in the United States, create jobs. You have to show that your investment, $500,000 or $1 million, leads to 10 new U.S. jobs. Now, you don't have to hire those 10 people right away, but you have to have a plan. 10 people have to be hired within 2 years after you get the green card. Now, this process could take 2 or 3 years, so you do have some time, but there has to be a plan. How are you going to hire 10 new people? The managerial role. Like I explained before, you can't just invest the money and then do nothing. Once you get the green card, you're supposed to have a managerial role in the business. Somehow you have to be involved in the policy or managing. You have to be there every day managing all the workers. Maybe you're on the board of directors. Maybe you make policy decisions. But you have to have some sort of managerial role. Now, one of the exceptions is called investing in a troubled business. If a business already has more than 10 U.S. workers, but it's not doing very well, in the past 2 years, it's had a net loss, then it's called a troubled business. And if you invest the minimum investment and keep at least 10 of those U.S. jobs, then you don't have to create 10 more jobs. And that is the exception for saving a troubled business. Okay? You don't have to create new jobs, but you have to make sure those old jobs are saved for that 2-year period. Okay?
One question.
Yes.
So you need to prove that you create 10 full-time jobs. Is that time limited from the time you get the temporary green card or get the permanent card?
When you first get the green card, before that, you have to prove the plan to hire 10 U.S. jobs. When you remove, so you get the temporary green card, a 2-year card, once that is approved. At the end of the 2 years, you file another application to make it permanent, a 10-year card. With that application, you show the 10 U.S. jobs. You show the W-2s. You show tax returns. You've created those 10 jobs. So that's why you have more than 2 years to create those jobs.
But when you file the application for the permanent card, you need to prove that you have already created.
But you can't apply for the green card right away. The first step is you show the business plan. That takes 6 months to 1 year to be approved. And then you get the 2-year green card, which lasts 2 years. So there's more than 2 years there for you to hire those workers.
Okay.
I'll go through the step-by-step process. Okay. The second category, regional center. More than 90% of EB5 cases are regional center. There are more than 400 regional centers that are approved by the Immigration Service. You can find those on the Immigration Service website. That's www.uscis.gov. You do not have to pay any money to see the list. The government publishes this list. In Ohio, there are 6 regional centers. And in Cleveland, pretty much the biggest one in Ohio is called the Cleveland International Fund. They've helped build a couple of hotels in downtown and some other facilities. Okay. Now, just because it's approved by the Immigration Service, not all 400 are good regional centers. You might have heard in the past few years, there's been some fraud involved. Regional centers taking people's money, saying they're investing it, but actually not investing, spending it, and then the investors lose their money, don't get the green card, and that's it. So you have to make your decision. You have to look into the regional center. What's their success rate? How many approvals have they had? How many investors do they have? Is it a good project? Most regional centers are funds. So they provide funding. They get investors, get a lot of funds, and then they invest in a project. Maybe Marriott hires the fund to finance their hotel. So Marriott isn't the one who is the EB5 regional center, it's the actual fund. Right? You have to look at their success rate. What project is it? Is this Marriott hotel likely to succeed? Or is this their first time investing? There's no history of success. You have to do this research, and lawyers can't always tell you which regional center is the best because that's a financial and investment decision. It's a securities problem, and immigration lawyers don't specialize in securities law. We can't give that kind of advice. So you have to talk to the regional centers, ask for their investment materials, their project materials, and ask them questions. Okay? Now, regional centers are almost always 500,000 minimum investment. They're almost always located in a TEA. You don't have to worry about the $1 million investment. Now, there are some regional centers where they actually want to be in a high-income area, maybe because they're a private business, not a fund. So they actually want to be in a high-income area. Then it might be $1 million. But usually, the regional center is 500,000. Source of investment funds. We still have to prove where the money came from. Make sure it's not a criminal source. Okay? Whether it's a gift, your own investments, selling stock, selling property, selling a house, to show where it's coming from. No managerial role required. You are not involved in what happens with your money. You're not involved in managing the regional center. You invest the money, and then the regional center takes care of it for you. You just wait for the green card to come. Okay? And you do not have to worry about creating tenuous jobs. The regional center will take care of it for you. You just invest the money and prove where it comes from.